Welcome to the Film Geezers podcast. Hello and welcome to the Film Geezers podcast. I'm Robbo and I was joined as always by Cheeto.
Hello.
And today we're going to do part 2, which is probably going to turn out to be 3 parts of our Batman special. Last week we covered the
initial
Burton Schumacher films. And this week we're going to cover the Dark Knight trilogy and Batman v Superman. So, like I said last week, you don't have to have listened to last week's episode to know what's going on this week, because they are standalone episodes. They're not part of a trilogy series. Okay. I say I didn't really have a lot of history with Batman. I never read any of the comic books. So my only introduction to Batman was the 89 film and the 3 subsequent films. So when Batman and Robin really bombed at the box office in 97, as George Clooney said that he felt it killed the franchise. There weren't any more films made for another 8 years, because I think initially Warner Brothers had planned 2 more sequels.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
We'll cover that in next week's episode, which is going to be about the failed Batman films. So we'll start with Batman Begins. 2005, written by Christopher Nolan, David S. Goyer, and directed by Christopher Nolan. It stars Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne, stroke Batman, who got the part. He actually, I think it was year 2000, he was given a comic, Batman Year One, by a friend, and read it, loved it so much, he told his agent that keep their ear out. If they hear of somebody making a Batman film, he wants to be in. That's how much. So he was actually a fan of the comic books before he...
I think as well, he liked the character of Batman because he's like a troubled soul, and how he wasn't the finished article, and he wages war with these deep demons every single day. He's got so many layers to him. I think Christian Bale really liked that.
Also stars Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow, and now Cillian Murphy actually auditioned for the part, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's not one of your later notes, is it? Okay. We'll skip over that. Mark Wine as Alfred Pennyworth. Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes. Now Rachel Dawes doesn't actually appear in any of the comic books. She was written specifically for this film. And they manufactured this storyline where she is a childhood. She's actually the daughter of one of the Wayne's servants, and they're sort of childhood friends. So they grew up together. Gary Oldman as James Gordon, and Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, and Tom Wilkinson as Carmine Falcone. Now I think Gary Oldman was the last person to be cast in the film, and they thought it'd be good because he normally plays bad guys, and they thought that it might be a nice twist. Oh, you covered this as well. Okay, skip over that again. I'll just stick to your nose and not try. Do you want to fill in on the plot?
So, a young Bruce Wayne travels to the Far East, where he's trained in the martial arts by Henry Ducard. I'm going to bleach my eyes after that. A member of the mysterious League of Shadows. When Ducard reveals the League's true purpose, the complete destruction of Gotham City, Wayne returns to Gotham, intent on cleaning up the city without resorting to murder. With the help of Alfred, his loyal butler, and Lucius Fox, a tech expert at Wayne Enterprises, Batman is born.
Yeah. So Nolan, he'd achieved success with the director of Memento and Insomnia in 2002, and Insomnia proved that Nolan could handle a medium-budget studio film working with big stars, because he built Al Pacino, who's bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring it on schedule and produce a critical commercial hit. So when Nolan was looking for another project, he was seen as a young director studios would be willing to work with. He approached Warner Brothers with a proposal for a new Batman film, one of the franchises owned by the studio, which had gathered dust for several years due to the failure of Batman and Robin in 1997. The studio liked Nolan's proposed idea and hired him to direct the film, Nolan and Goya began development on the film in the early 2003, aiming for a darker, more realistic tone compared to the previous films. A primary goal for their vision was to engage the audience's emotional investment in both Batman and Bruce Wayne identities of the lead character.
And that's exactly what he's
done.
So
it's basically get back to roots, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And say, let's get rid of all this other campy shit that was going on before.
Yeah.
We want to get back to Batman's darker roots, more gritty,
how it should be,
more real.
Yeah.
And I think it's, you might have covered this later on in your notes. Well, he tried to not use CGI, didn't he? Where he could.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it is practical effects.
Because he loves his practical effects, doesn't he? Yeah.
And and try and get rid of the CGI stuff. So no film had ever covered the origin story of the Caped Crusader. Even in the comics, there was no explanation of how Bruce Wayne became Batman. Sure, we knew his parents were gunned down in an alley by a small-time criminal called Joe Chill, and this incident was certainly a defining moment in his life, which propelled him towards the life of a nocturnal crime fighter. So you see that in the film where his parents are gunned down by Joe Chill.
Yeah.
And that is... because obviously he comes to trial. It must be years later that he comes to trial.
It was about 7 years, I think it was,
and the young Bruce he's planning, essentially, this is a spoiler if you've not seen him, but he's planning on going to the trial to represent his family, but he's also going to try and kill Joe Chill.
Yeah.
But one of Carmine Falcone's men gets there before him, and he realises that as Bruce Wayne, there's no way that he can take revenge against people.
Because I know Rachel says that he can get revenge, but it's not going to make him feel any better, is it?
Yeah.
When they're in the car together, and that's when he reveals that he was going to go and kill him.
And then he goes, meets Falcone, and then he just disappears.
Yeah.
And ends up in where we see him in what is presumably a Chinese prison, where he's visited by
Ra's al Ghul.
Well,
Henry Ducard at the
time, yeah. The film was principally shot in the United Kingdom, Iceland and Chicago, and it relied heavily on traditional stunts, like we said before, and miniature effects, with CGI being used in minimal capacity compared to other action films. The comic book storylines such as The Man Who Falls, Batman Year One, Batman The Long Halloween served as inspiration. Now, I believe as well that Nolan didn't have a second unit on this film.
He didn't know.
So he did all that himself.
Yeah.
So every shot you see was directed by Christopher Nolan, which is quite unusual, really. So Christian Bale was relatively unknown when cast before he was confirmed on September the 11th, 2003, having expressed interest in the role since Darren Aronofsky was planning his own film adaptation. Ian Bailey, Henry Cavill, Billy Crudup, Crudup. I always get his name wrong. Hugh Dancy, Jake Gyllenhaal, Joshua Jackson, Heath Ledger, David Boreanaz, and Cillian Murphy, who later cast as Dr. Jonathan Crane, or the Scarecrow, took interest in it as well. Josh Hartnett met with Nolan about the role, but decided against pursuing it. Well, I think he was the studio's choice, wasn't he, Josh Hartnett? But then they felt that maybe he was a little bit like Michael Keaton. He came more from a comedy background.
Yeah, he would not suit Batman.
Yeah. And I don't know if there was a backlash about it. Probably loads of internet stuff going on. Amy Adams served as a casting reader for the casting of Bruce Wayne Batman in a favour to the casting director. Bale felt the previous films underused Batman's character, overplaying the villains instead. To best pose as Batman, Bale studied graphic novels and illustrations of the superhero. Director Nolan said of Bale, he has exactly the balance of darkness and light that we're looking for. Goya stated that while some actors would play a great Bruce Wayne or a great Batman, Bale could portray both radically different personalities. Since he had lost a great deal of weight in preparation for his role in The Machinist, Bale hired a personal trainer to help him gain 100 pounds of muscle in the span of only a couple of months to help him physically prepare for the role. After realising he went over by 30 pounds, he lost the excess weight by the time filming began. Bale trained in Wing Chun Kung Fu under Eric Oram in preparation for the movie.
I think that just shows how much he actually wanted the role.
I seem to remember he's listed as 6'1.5" and I think he weighed about 220 pounds.
But at the time, he obviously had that vertebrae, so he lost 3 inches. So he's about 6'3", maybe when the Dark Knight trilogy came out.
Nolan offered the role of Alfred to Anthony Hopkins, but declined. Nolan actually went to Kane's house to personally deliver him the script, telling him his role would be, and describing Alfred as Batman's godfather.
But before it happened...
Well, yeah, because I think Kane was living out in the Caribbean somewhere, like the Bahamas or something, and Nolan, I think, was a neighbour of his, and he sort of called round to see him, and he said, I've got this script for you to read, and Kane said, just leave it. He said, well, I can't leave it, I need you to read it now, so I can take it back with me. And Kane read it. This is from an interview I remember watching of him, and his immediate thoughts were, I bet he's going to make me play the fucking butler. But, I mean, what a butler, man. Nolan felt Kane would effectively portray the foster father element of the character. Although Alfred is depicted in the film as having served the Wayne family for generations, Kane created his own backstory in that before becoming Wayne's butler, Alfred served in the Special Air Service.
You can actually see that, though, in the film, can't you?
Yeah. Because there's... we'll leave that for Batman Dark Knight Rises, because there's a bit in the film where he talks about his military background. But Gary Oldman, going back to that, was first choice for the part of Ra's al Ghul, but ended up playing James Gordon instead. Guy Pearce, who collaborated with Christopher Nolan on Memento, reported that the pair had discussions about him playing the role, but both of them decided that he was too young for the part. Viggo Mortensen was also considered for the role. Neeson is commonly cast as a mentor, so the revelation that his character was the main villain was intended to shock viewers. Oldham was Nolan's first choice for Ra's al Ghul, but when Chris Cooper turned down the part of Gordon to spend time with his family, Nolan decided that it would be refreshing for Oldman, who's renowned for his portrayals of villains, to play the role instead. I embody the themes of the movie, which are the values of family, courage and compassion, and a sense of right and wrong, good and bad, and justice, Oldman said of his character. He filmed most of his scenes in Britain. Goy said Oldman heavily resembled Gordon as drawn by David Mazzucchelli in Batman Year One. And Nolan decided against casting an Irish actor like Cillian Murphy for Batman before casting.
That was literally his
I don't understand why, because
I don't get it.
Cillian Murphy doesn't speak with an Irish accent, does he?
No. And he was right to not do it, because I don't think Cillian Murphy fits the Batman mould, but it's a very odd reason.
Yeah. I was reading something about Nolan loved his eyes so much that he tried to get him to take his glasses off as much as possible. Yeah. So there's a lot of scenes where he's not wearing glasses. Yeah. So, I don't know, just a little point in there. James Newton Howard said this about the music of Batman Begins. Chris Nolan called Hans and said, I'm doing the Batman movie, do you want to do it? And Hans said, yeah, can I do it with my mate James Newton Howard? And he said, yeah, great. The thing, do you reckon it went exactly like that? Yeah. The conversation. Yeah, I want to do it with my mate. The thing is, Hans and I are wildly different musical entities, but we do have a similar process. We use the same technology. We tend to approach scores the way you would approach making a record. That is, the production values are extremely important to us. How the bass drum sounds, what the low end is like, is the mid-range too harsh? We really try and shape it sonically, so that allowed us to have a lot of commonalities. We set up 2 writing studios, a pair of studios in London up on the 3rd floor across the hall from each other. His door was open, I could hear what he was doing, and my door was open, he could hear what I was doing. We were smoking like chimneys. On that movie, on Batman Begins, we truly did co-write every cue together, with the exception of the most famous cue, which he wrote, which is the 2-note thing, which is fabulous.
Do you know the 2-note thing?
No, I can't remember that.
Boom, boom. I'm so sorry. You know it, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. So that's exactly like Jaws theme then, just 2 notes.
Yeah, but it's so synonymous with this film.
Okay. Batman Begins opened on June the 15th, 2005 in the US in 3,858 theatres. It grossed over 48 million in its opening weekend in North America, eventually grossing over 371.9 million worldwide and becoming the 9th highest grossing film of 2005. The film was met largely with positive reviews, with praise for the tone, Bale's performance, action sequences, score, direction, and the emotional weight compared to the previous Batman films.
And I think that is
Is that enough money for Warner's, do you reckon? Is that a success? Because they have a habit of, like, films that have done really well financially, like made 200 million, they go, no, it wasn't financially successful.
If you think the year later, Superman Returns made 400 million, and they shelved that, didn't they? So
they did.
Maybe they could see Christopher Nolan, he was a young director.
Yeah.
Maybe they could see the potential he had. So I don't know. But yeah, I was quite shocked that it only made that amount of money, because maybe back then it was quite a big amount, but now that's nothing. That's what you expect a blockbuster to make.
Yeah. Like I said, I was never a big fan of superhero movies, but we had an agreement, didn't we, that if I was to watch the Dark Knight trilogy, you'd watch The Godfather, because you'd never seen The Godfather.
Okay, cheers to telling people that.
And I think that we both made out on that, because obviously I really do like these films.
Yeah.
Because Batman isn't a typical superhero.
No, he has no superpowers.
No.
He's a man.
Yeah.
And albeit he's a billionaire, but still, like he's a man, and he's a fragile. And they're not afraid to show his fragile side, that he has feelings. That he's a very layered character. He's not just this overpowered superhero that you see in all these movies, you know. Yeah.
Back in 2005, when the film wrote, Forbes magazine actually worked out how much money you would need to become Batman, and they said it was only $3.5 million.
Which I was shocked. That's about $5 million.
Adjusted for inflation is about just under $5 million now to be Batman.
And I think we said if we win the lottery, then
that's it.
I'm definitely buying a tumbler if we win the lottery.
Tumbler in the driveway.
The bat as well. I'm getting that.
Bat cape.
No, I think as in terms of origin stories, I know we both are sucker for origin stories, but this is one of the best, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Because when I first watched these three films, Batman Begins was my favourite.
Yeah.
Because like I say, I love an origin story, but I've actually reevaluated that now.
Yeah, I know. So for a certain other one in this trilogy,
it is. Yeah. So.
I know. Yeah, I understand, because previously when Christopher Nolan said that he wanted to focus on the emotional weight and the darkness and grittiness, you really feel that, don't you? And you feel the emotional weight, and it's an emotional weight that was much welcome, because you just don't get it in the previous movies, do you? Yeah. There's no stakes. There's no you're not invested as much as you were in this one, you know. And I think he hit the nail on the head with going for that, because it makes you care about the movie more and the character more. I
kind of get it, because like '89, they chose not to do a backstory.
Yeah.
Which I get it in a way, because if that had I don't know what the deal was with Warner's, whether it was just that one movie, see how it goes, and then if it does well, we'll give you a sequel.
Yeah, I think that's
so they're having to kind of cram everything into one film.
Yeah.
Whereas over a trilogy, you can actually explore that. You know, you can actually explore the characters more, develop the character, because obviously the first part.
Although, as we'll soon find out, he only planned on this movie.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Even though I hear people say, but he revealed the Joker card at the end. He was like, he was leaving the opportunity if he wanted to come back.
You know, even over two films, you can actually develop the characters more. Because the first film, you're introducing the characters, their backstories, and then a bit of the action. Because it's really a film of two halves, isn't it? The first half is Bruce going away, training, coming back, and then it's his journey. It's a few false starts initially.
Well, I mean, the film really kicks off when he goes back to Gotham, doesn't it? And it's just, once you get, it's classic Batman basically once he gets back to Gotham, but it's so much darker, so much grittier, there's so much more attention to detail, and like I said, the story you're much more emotionally invested in, and I feel like with the writing as well, they don't jump corners as well. Everything has a purpose, and that is just so much more effective in for us the viewer, you know. But yeah, it's an absolutely amazing origin story, and it really, it kick-started Batman again. Yeah, everyone thought it was down and out with Batman and Robin. How can it go any worse, you know? But yeah, somehow Christopher Nolan found a way, and as it being an original story, like I said, we'd never seen his origin story that clear before, and I think it was really controversial at the time, him doing a whole movie about his origin story.
Yeah,
and I don't know if what people were smoking at the time, because they were like, we're not that interested. But I was like, that's the golden thing, you know, that to see Batman's origin story.
I can get it, because, you know, you've got this guy who is kind of mysterious anyway.
Yeah.
Is he better just to be not have an origin story, and people kind of make up their own ideas of how he...
That would be my thoughts before 2005, but after seeing this, then it does not take away the mystery.
The Dark Knight a bit more mysterious and a bit more dangerous if you don't know where it came from.
He still has that mystery, because he's in prison, and it doesn't show all of his all of his backstory, does it? You know, there's still things he leaves, and I think he shows what is necessary.
Yeah.
But he doesn't show too much where it takes away the mystery of the character.
Because the weird thing is, he's in prison, but he's in prison by his own choice.
Yeah.
He's free to leave at any point, and all he does in prison is pick fights with people. And I don't know if that's some kind of self-loathing.
Yeah, maybe.
Where he feels he needs that, or it's part of his training. I don't know.
Yeah. But once again, that's the mystery he still leaves in, so there's still mystery here.
When Henry Ducard visits him, that's what he says. He says, you know, I can show you how to channel that anger into something more worthwhile.
Like I said, though, we said it's definitely, like we said, it's definitely a movie of two halves. The first half is very... it's not... Compared to the second half, it's slow, but it's so story-driven, and it's brilliant. And once you get to the Gotham part, it just... Pure action, isn't it? This is a pure action movie. But it's one that still has the stakes, still has the emotional depth as like a drama, you know, and a brilliant third act. And I must admit,
like with a lot of action films, you know, you don't get it's still dramatic, as well, and it's still brilliant acting, as well.
Oh yeah, everyone pulls their weight.
It builds, you know, it just builds into a brilliant film.
Yeah.
It's not a usual like action film, what you say, and there's some little light bits in it, but not like the original Batman film.
It's totally different.
Yeah,
like you said, everyone pulls their weight in terms of the acting department, and I can't imagine anyone else other than Bale being Batman. Really, and I'm so glad that he lobbied. Batman. I'm so glad he lobbied for it.
Well, it's so difficult to go back and think of somebody else in that character. Maybe they would have done a great job as well.
We're just glad. Yeah. I'm just so glad that they picked Bale. You know,
I mean, it's like obviously we're doing this because, you know, later on this year, March of this year, the Batman is going to be released, starring Robert Pattinson. I think everyone's really excited to see what sort of Batman because I don't know, most of the Batmans are kind of samey. You know what I mean? Keaton, Kilmer, Clooney, they're all kind of similar.
Well, I think Bale, it's almost like in the original Batman series, I think they were playing like caricatures of Batman, where you can tell that Bale took on the role, and because he's very method, isn't it? He made himself Bruce Wayne and Batman, and he made the character so layered that you care about him. And
well, I was reading on his trailer, he had Bruce Wayne on it. And
he's mental when
he gives interviews in the accent that
voice,
either the one that he's currently filming or the next film that he's making.
That's why people don't
know he's Welsh, do they?
Welsh? He's English, mate.
He's Welsh.
He's English, mate.
He describes himself as Welsh.
No, he does not. Well, I'm gonna. Anyone that says he's Welsh, he's born in Pembrokeshire, moved to England at 1. All his family is English. He has an English accent. He's Cockney many times. It was that guy on Good Morning Britain, that Ben guy.
Yeah.
He called him a taffy, and he was like, "Whoa, I'm not a taffy. I'm English."
Okay then.
So that's my Sorry to anyone Welsh out there, but it's, he's just English. He just is.
Okay. Right. So are we going to move on to next? And you can cover this because I'm getting a bit of a sore throat here.
I don't think it's any shock that this is my favourite film of all time. It's The Dark Knight, and it was made in 2008. Once again, written by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer. Directed by Chris Nolan again. It stars Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne and Batman, Heath Ledger as the Joker, Michael Caine as Alfred Pennyworth, Gary Oldman as James Gordon, Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, and Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel Dawes. Now,
didn't Heath Ledger he auditioned for Batman, didn't he?
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Oh, sorry. Okay, right. I'm actually spoiling our own. I'm spoiling alert of our own fucking podcast.
No,
I'm just going to shut up.
Now the plot. With the help of allies Lieutenant Jim Gordon and DA Harvey Dent, Batman has been able to keep a tight lid on crime in Gotham City. But when a vile young criminal calling himself the Joker suddenly throws the town into chaos, the Caped Crusader begins to tread a fine line between heroism and vigilantism. I can't say words properly. So, before the release of Batman Begins, screenwriter David S. Goyer wrote a treatment for 2 sequels, which introduced the Joker and Harvey Dent. His original intent was for the Joker to scar Dent during the Joker's trial in the 3rd film, turning Dent into the supervillain Two-Face. You look like you want to say anything.
No.
Yeah, you can chip in if you see anything.
Fun,
Goyer, who penned the first draft of the film, cited the DC Comics 13-issue comic book limited series, Batman: The Long Halloween, as the major influence on this storyline. And have you noticed as well, Batman: The Long Halloween tends to be the source material for most of these films, isn't it? It's kind of Batman Year One and Batman: Long Halloween are kind of the 2 premier Batman comics, I believe. According to veteran Batman artist Neil Adams, he met with David Goyer in Los Angeles, and the story would eventually look to Adams and writer Denny O'Neill's 1971 story, The Joker's 5-Way Revenge, that appeared in Batman number 251, in which O'Neill and Adams reintroduced the Joker. While initially uncertain on whether or not he would return to direct the sequel, Nolan did want to reinterpret the Joker on screen. On July 31st, 2006, Warner Brothers officially announced initiation of production for the sequel to Batman Begins, titled The Dark Knight. It is the first live-action Batman film without the word Batman in its title, which Bell noticed as signalling that this take on Batman of mine and Chris's is very different from any of the others.
Yeah. Because like the comic books, they go through... They do reboots and,
Oh, yeah, there's so many different storylines.
Yeah. And it seems like... Because I think problems happen because readership kind of falls off a bit, so then they have to do something different. So then they'll reboot Batman, or they'll then introduce new characters and that kind of thing.
Oh, sometimes what they like to do is if they do like the death of Batman, that's going to get people reading it, innit?
Yeah.
Nolan's inspiration for the film was the Joker's comic book debut in 1940, the 1988 graphic novel The Killing Joke, and the 1996 series The Long Halloween, which retold Harvey Dent's origin. The Dark Knight nickname was first applied to Batman in Batman number 1, 1940, in a story written by Bill Finger. The Dark Knight was filmed primarily in Chicago, as well as in several other locations in the United States, United Kingdom and Hong Kong, and you can really see that, can't you?
Yeah.
The film was the first mainstream feature to partially utilise IMAX 70mm cameras, with Nolan using them for 28 minutes of film, including the Joker's first appearance. And I don't know, it's in many ways this is a weirdly shot film, because you could have like the story going along and then there'd be just a couple scenes, maybe a minute of just skyline in there of him going around the city. And I think he done that on purpose because he wanted to show, and you can really feel it, he wanted to show how big Gotham is. Because I don't know if you think in the original, Gotham feels big, but it doesn't feel anywhere as big as it feels like in the second one, it feels like a lived-in city. And that really helped it, with the IMAX cameras as well. And now Warner Brothers initially created a viral marketing campaign for The Dark Knight, developing promotional websites and trailers, highlighting screenshots of Ledger as the Joker. Now, Ledger unfortunately died on January 22nd, 2008, some months after he completed filming, and 6 months before the film's release from a toxic combination of prescription drugs. leading to intense attention from the press and movie-going public. Bale said he was confident in his choice to return in the role because of the positive response to his portrayal in Batman Begins. He continued training in the KC fighting method and performed many of his own stunts, but did not gain as much muscle as in the previous film because the new Batsuit allowed him to move with greater agility. Bale described Batman's dilemma as whether his crusade is something that has an end, can he quit and have an ordinary life. The kind of manic intensity someone has to maintain the passion and the anger that they felt as a child takes an effort after a while to keep doing that. At some point you have to exercise your demons. He added, now you have not just a young man in pain attempting to find some kind of answer, you have somebody who actually has power, who is burdened by that power and is having to recognise the difference between attaining that power and holding on to it. So I got a frog in my throat. Bale felt Batman's personality had been strongly established in the first film, so it was unlikely his character would be overshadowed by the villains, stating, I have no problem with competing with someone else, and that's going to make a better movie. So before Ledger was cast in July 2006, Paul Bettany, Lacey Holm, I think that's how you say it. Lucky Holm, whoever that is. Adrian Brody, Steve Carell, and Robin Williams. Even Robin Williams still.
Again.
I think every movie is...
I thought he refused to... Because what happened is, like in Batman 1989, the studio really wanted Jack Nicholson, but he wouldn't commit. So they basically went and offered Robin Williams a part just as bait.
Yeah.
And went to Nicholson and said, right, if you don't sign on now, then Robin Williams... So, obviously Williams wasn't happy being used as bait, and he was considered, I think, for the Joker in Batman Forever.
Yeah.
And he stated that he would never work for Warner Brothers. So, I don't know whether it was him or... I don't know.
Maybe the fat paycheck that came with it.
Possibly, yeah.
So yeah, Robin Williams publicly expressed interest in it. However, Nolan had wanted to work with Ledger on a number of projects in the past, including unsuccessfully approaching Ledger for the role of Batman in Batman Begins, and was agreeable to Ledger's chaotic interpretation of the character. When Ledger saw Batman Begins, he had realised a way to make the character work that was consistent with the film's tone. He described his Joker as a psychotic, mass-murdering, schizophrenic clown with zero empathy, which he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the film, the Joker has a Glasgow smile, and his trademark chalk white skin and red lips and makeup rather than the result of chemical bleaching, as in the traditional portrayal of the character. Throughout the film, the Joker states his desire to upset social order through crime and comes to define himself by his conflict with Batman. To prepare for the role, Ledger, and I find this so weird, Ledger lived alone in a hotel room for a month, formulating the character's posture, voice and personality, and kept a diary in which he recorded Joker's thoughts and feelings. While he initially found it difficult, Ledger eventually generated a voice unlike Jack Nicholson's character in Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film. He was also given Batman the Killing Joke and Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, which he really tried to read and put it down. Ledger also cited A Clockwork Orange and Sid Vicious as very early starting point for Christian Bale and I, but we kind of flew far away from that pretty quickly and into another world altogether. But I think you can really see those sort of inspirations, can't you?
Yeah.
And his character is literally, it is like he's lived in a hotel room for a month, you know. And it's just, we talk about Bale going method, you know. It's just, obviously we'll get into a bit later, but where am I? There's a bit of everything in him. There's nothing that consistent. Ledger said and added, there are a few more surprises to him. Ledger was allowed to shoot and mostly direct the videos the Joker sends out as warnings. Each take Ledger made was different from the last. Nolan was impressed enough with the first shoot that he chose not to be present when Ledger shot the video with a kidnapped reporter.
I did not know that.
No, I did not before researching, which is just... The more you find out about this film... Nolan and David S. Goyer had originally considered using Dent in Batman Begins, but they replaced him with a new character, Rachel Dawes, when they realised that they couldn't do him justice. Before Eckhart was cast in February 2007, I can't believe Schreiber, Josh Lucas and Ryan Phillippe had expressed interest in the role, while Mark Ruffalo auditioned. I love Mark Ruffalo, but Liev Schreiber can fuck off.
Okay.
Matt Damon as well. He stated that he was considered for the role, but could not accept due to scheduling conflicts. Hugh Jackman was also considered for the part. Nolan chose Eckhart, whom he considered for the lead role in Memento, citing his extraordinary ability as an actor, his embodiment of that kind of chiseled American hero quality projected by Robert Redford, and his subtextual edge. Eckhart was interested in good guys gone wrong and had played corrupt men in films such as The Black Dahlia, Thank You for Smoking, and In the Company of Men. Whereas Dent is depicted as a crime boss in most characterizations, Nolan chose to portray him as a twisted vigilante to emphasize his role as Batman's counterpart. Eckhart explained, he is still true to himself. He's a crime fighter, he's not killing good people. He's not a bad guy, not purely. For Dent, Eckhart kept him thinking about the Kennedys, particularly Robert F. Kennedy, who was idealistic, held a grudge, and took on the mob. He had his hair lightened and started to make him appear more dashing. Nolan told Eckhart to not make Dent's criminal personality jokey with slurping sounds or tics. Gyllenhaal took over the role of Rachel Dawes from Katie Holmes, who played the part in Batman Begins. In August 2005, Holmes was reportedly planning to reprise the role, but she eventually turned it down to film Mad Money with Diane Keaton and Queen Latifah. Okay. I've never even heard that movie in my life.
How'd that work out then?
Bet she regrets that, yeah. Oh. By March 2007, Gyllenhaal was in final talks for the part. Gyllenhaal has acknowledged her character is a damsel in distress to an extent, but says Nolan sought ways to empower her character. So Rachel was really clear about what's important to her and unwilling to compromise her morals, which made a nice change from the many conflicted characters whom she had previously portrayed. The Dark Knight had a different creative approach for the team when it came to the music. Instead of collaborating on every individual piece, they split up the work based on their strengths. The Dark Knight was a little bit different. We did most of the writing in Los Angeles. His studio in LA is about 300 yards from my studio. It's very close. We split up some of the assignments. He took the Joker and did such a crazy good job on that. I took Two-Face, and then we split up some of the action stuff. I did, predictably, maybe more of the psychological stuff, but we went through it, and it was great. It was also great fun. And now considered one of the best films of its decade, and one of the greatest and most influential films of all time, the film received critical acclaim for its screenplay, visual effects, musical score, mature themes, performances, particularly edges, cinematography, action sequences and direction. The film also set numerous records during its theatrical run. The Dark Knight appeared on 287 critics' top 10 lists, more than any other film of 2008 with the exception of WALL-E, and more critics named The Dark Knight the best film released that year. With over $1 billion in revenue worldwide, it became the fourth highest grossing film at the time, and the highest grossing film of 2008. It also set the record for the highest grossing domestic opening, with $158 million, a record it held for 3 years. At the 81st Academy Awards, the film received 8 nominations. It won the award for Best Sound Editing, and Ledger was posthumously awarded Best Supporting Actor. In 2020, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, becoming the second superhero film after 1978's Superman to earn the honour. Which I did not know either. And I think that's all warranted, really.
Like I said, when I first watched the 3 films, Batman Begins was I'd say my favourite. Yeah. But I've since when we rewatched them again for this, I've got to say Dark Knight is good.
I think you said as well when you maybe when you watched them before you were like, oh, gotta watch them all, where you fully immerse yourself in the film, and it can change, can't it? It can change your opinion on a film. Yeah. But yeah, this is in my opinion. I mean Heath Ledger is absolutely brilliant as the Joker. Because this is the thing. In any other movie, you've got a clown killing people, laughing. It would be so campy, but in this it just works, and he's so twisted and maniacal, and like he's basically off the rails, and it's just you don't know what he's going to do next, and many people.
It proves that it's not about the money; it's about
because he burns his heart for the.
And he actually says to Batman that they need each other, that they're both he's
like, I'm not going to kill you. Yeah. I need you. You know, and I just many people. I know. I'm just this isn't like concrete, but many people attribute him going so method, and obviously he stayed alone in his hotel room, and they think that he took the prescription drugs and it maybe led him being so method maybe led to his death. Yeah. But
you never know.
For a performance to go out in is it's one of the best performances of all time. And like I said, I just think this movie compared to the Batman Begins is totally different direction. This is a crime thriller, and where the other one was pure action.
Yeah,
and I think it as well. Nolan cited inspiration from films like Heat, The Sting as well. Those type of heist thriller movies, and you can definitely tell that, can't you?
So, at what point did they decide they were going to do 3 films?
Well, this thing, David Goyer wrote 3 screenplays,
right?
But Christopher Nolan, he was like, I think he obviously helped write them as well. But I don't think he was that. He didn't when he let's say when he made Batman Begins. I don't think he planned on making a trilogy.
Right.
I think he was more thinking of someone else taking over the directing. But
okay.
I mean, I bet he's glad he didn't. But yeah, there's just so many things that went right about this movie, and it's. I agree. This is probably the Mount Everest of comic book movies. There will never be a comic book movie like this because it's that unique thing of it's a comic book movie, but it isn't as well. It doesn't chuck it in your face that it's a comic book movie. It doesn't chuck it in your face that it's a Batman movie. It's just a gritty crime thriller that just happens to house the Batman characters.
Yeah.
But once again, I mean, we're talking about the performances. You can't not talk about Ledger, obviously, but I think Aaron Eckhart as well as Harvey Dent is brilliant. And it's almost like a sad story, isn't it? It's a tragedy.
Because the Joker, he basically holds the city to ransom, doesn't he? Say if you don't tell me who Batman is, or if Batman doesn't come forward, then he's basically going to carry on.
Because basically with Batman, he's stopped all the crime, and the criminals have to go underground, and they hire the Joker. Not at the start. They sit only until they see how crazy he is. They hire him to take down the Batman, and like Robbo said, he wants Batman to step forward or someone to tell him who Batman is, and he basically shows his power by filming these videos, and he takes hostage of different people, kills different people in the public, and I just think this is where the stars aligned. I just think so many things are great about this movie, and I don't think you'll ever. It's like a lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
So many things were executed right. The story writing is amazing. It's paced amazing. The music is amazing, and there's some people right. With the new Spider-Man movie come out, they try and compare it to that. And they say The Dark Knight, they fall asleep. There's this whole thing about them falling asleep. But I was like, are they watching the same movie? You know what I mean? This is the apex of comic book movies. There will never be anything like this ever again. And it transcends comic book movies. And it always gets talked in the same bracket of 12 Angry Men, The Godfather, Shawshank Redemption, as it should. And I think this is one of the greatest movies of all time, but certainly the best movie of the 21st century. I know it's big. I know that's a big claim there, but that's just me personally. I know it's a bit biased because it's my favourite film of all time, but I just think it
just shows how so-called comic book movies have evolved.
Yeah,
now.
And if you think this came out before the MCU, so up to that point, like you said. Batman Begins was maybe a one-off. People were thinking, and before that, obviously, comic book movies were just these. Well, I don't even need to explain what they were. They were of their time, but this completely changed the genre, and now comic book movies are much more gritty, dark, and it's all because of this movie. And it's once again it's in one of those trilogies where the sequel tends to be better than the original.
Yeah. And we've covered the opening scene in one of our other podcasts.
Oh yeah,
one of the greatest opening scenes.
Well, this is the thing as well. This is why the origin story matters, because I don't think this film would be anywhere near as effective if we didn't have Batman's origin story to see where he's come from.
Yeah.
And I mean the last act. This movie is so well written that the last act you'd expect in a big comic book blockbuster like this to be like a all out third act between like Batman fighting Two-Face and Joker, when it's not. It's just so well. It's basically Batman captures the Joker.
Yeah.
The Joker expects people to be like him, so they expect these two ships to, to kill. They expect innocent people to kill each other, and Batman's like, no, we're not like you. You're just like a one-off. And then he goes to Harvey, which is just a tragic story about how one person, the Joker basically sends him down this path that you think that they call him the White Knight, don't they?
Yeah.
Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
And he just tragically falls. He doesn't turn, does he? He just falls into this, into Two-Face. And it's not like this, like we said, it's not like this huge fight or this huge battle that you see in MCU movies. It's just great story writing, and you'd think it'd fall short because you've seen all this action before it, but no, it just works because it's so well executed.
This is a spoiler alert. Rachel and Harvey were engaged to be married.
Yeah.
And the Joker kidnaps them both, places them at two separate locations with explosives, and basically gives Batman the choice to save one of them. So he goes after one, and Gordon goes after the other. And you don't find out until he's breaking a door down which one is chosen. And Batman actually chooses to go after Harvey because he feels that he's more important to the future of Gotham. And unfortunately, Gordon gets there too late and Rachel dies. So that's part of his descent into. But then the explosives they're using are actually liquid, and he ends up getting burnt on half of his body, and so that's how he becomes Two-Face, essentially.
Great CGI as well, isn't it?
So it's so you can see how he becomes.
Yeah, nothing's rushed, is it? It's very paced well, and this is the thing with this film as well, is it sets up things about the film, and it explains them after.
But then that kind of pits him against Batman then, because he blames Batman for letting Rachel die when he could have saved her instead. Yeah. So
even though it was the right choice to go for Harvey, but what I was saying before is that this movie sets up. Basically, a movie sets up its own rules, and it abides by those rules, and it tells the story how it sees fit, and it just makes it so much more engaging, intriguing, and you care about the characters once again. Like I said, every time I watch this movie just to see where Harvey was once at to where he is now. It's just like, how does it happen? But you're not there like, how does it happen? Because it literally shows you, it tells you. I mean, just some of the. I mean, if we go back to Heath Ledger's performance, I mean, he done a lot of improvisation, didn't he? We talk about the famous iconic hospital scene, and with the explosives. It didn't go off, did it? One of them.
Well, there's a scene where Joker's threatening to blow up a hospital, and he blows it up, but then he's kind of walking away dressed in a nurse's uniform, and he presses the button and nothing happens, and he sort of, instead of just kind of stopping and reshooting or whatever, he carries on in character, and he's looking back, and he's looking, and then it goes off, and
just the fact that he stays in character,
and the fact they left it in the film as well.
Yeah. It makes it so much more natural, and it's just a great watch, and just fully, because that's the thing with Heath Ledger. What he'd done before that, he'd done that 10 Things I Like About You or something. He was like
I've never really seen anything that he'd been in, really.
He was like a romantic lead, but obviously by this he showed his world class acting ability, and we lost him too late, too early, obviously. But like I said, if there's one role you're going to go out with, it's this role, and he fully became the Joker once again, like Bale. Okay. And this is the thing with Bale as well, is he's obviously Joker is Joker's film, isn't it? This film, but we also see the consequences. We see Batman's consequences of being Batman. How he gets Rachel killed. He blames himself for that. So he has his own arc. Because I know a lot of people say this is Batman's film, it's Joker's film, it's not even Batman's film, but it's not. And also for my comic book fans out there, we see a lot more of the detective work of Batman. You know, when he's doing the bullet, there's a bullet in the wall. He basically, and we get to see Alfred's weapons background. They identify this bullet, so we get to see a lot of Batman doing detective work. So
because at the end of the film, what happens is Harvey, in the sort of two-faced guise, he's killed some people.
Yeah.
And they feel that Harvey's legacy shouldn't be tainted by that, because he's the DA that stood up to crime and cleaned up the streets of Gotham. So Batman decides, or Bruce Wayne decides, Batman is going to take the blame for those murders.
Because he should not be the face of that.
So he shouldn't be the face of Gotham. And that's when he decides to basically disappear. And
you get a great final scene of you get Hans Zimmer's score booming, but you get a great Gary Oldman, his speech as Gordon, saying that he's the hero Gotham wants, but not right now.
Yeah.
And he's a hero Gotham needs, but not right now. Yeah. And you just see Batman escaping through like these cargo. It's like a cargo shipment bit, and the police are after him, and it's just brilliant scene to end it as well.
Okay.
But like I said, this is one of the best.
I've reevaluated my opinion, and I think this.
And if you haven't watched it, watch this film.
Although we spoiled it for you, I did say spoiler.
It's been long enough.
I guess so. Right, I'm going to let you carry on.
Right. Okay, so we're on to the sequel and the final in this trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises, and it was made in 2012. So a 4-year jump, if you didn't know maths. Written by Christopher Nolan once again and David S. Goyer.
I thought, didn't Jonathan Nolan write it as well?
He's written all these, yeah. But it's kind of common knowledge that whenever...
So a shout out to obviously Christopher's brother, Jonathan. Nepotism for you.
Directed by Chris Nolan once again. It stars Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne and Batman, Tom Hardy as Bane, Anne Hathaway as Selena Kyle and Catwoman, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as John Blake, Gary Oldman as James Gordon, Michael Caine as Alfred Pennyworth. I can't say Michael Caine.
No, I'll say Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. Master Wayne. Marine, I can't even say her name.
Marion Cotillard
as Talia al Ghul.
She's French.
Nice accent there. And Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox. Now the plot. It's been 8 years since Batman, in collusion with Commissioner Gordon, vanished into the night. Assuming responsibility for the death of Harvey Dent, Batman sacrificed everything for what he and Gordon hoped would be the greater good. However, the arrival of a cunning cat burglar and a merciless terrorist named Bane forced Batman out of exile and into a battle he may not be able to win. So, very good plot, and it sets up, the tension.
Yeah.
I don't want, I'm just chatting shit. So, Christopher Nolan was hesitant about returning to the series for a third film, but agreed after developing a story with his brother and Goyer that he felt would conclude the series on a satisfactory note. Nolan drew inspiration from Bane's comic book debut in the 1993 Nightfall storyline, the 1986 series The Dark Knight Returns, and the 1999 story No Man's Land. Filming took place from May to November 2011 in locations including Jodhpur, London, Nottingham, Glasgow, Los Angeles, New York City, Newark and Pittsburgh. Nolan used IMAX 70mm film cameras for much of the filming, including the first 6 minutes of the film, to optimise the quality of the picture. A vehicle variation of the Batplane and Batcopter, termed the Bat, a very fan favourite as well, an underground prison set and a new Batcave set were created specifically for the film. In 2005, David S. Goyer confirmed that he wrote treatments for the two films involving the Joker. The first would involve Batman, Harvey Dent and Commissioner Gordon hunting the Joker, while the second would have the Joker scarring Dent and turning him into Two-Face during his trial. Obviously we went over that previously. Yeah. The third treatment ended in the same way as the final version of The Dark Knight Rises. Other aspects of the third treatment were incorporated into The Dark Knight. However, Heath Ledger's family stated that he was planning on reprising his role as the Joker before his death. After Ledger's death, Christopher Nolan decided not to recast the role out of respect for his performance, and initially was hesitant to make a third film. Warner Brothers president of production, Jeff Robinov, had hoped...
Sorry, nothing.
What was that?
Oh my God.
Is he? Oh, I suppose it's Warner, isn't it? Yeah. Screw you, Jeff Robinov. Don't sue us, please. Had hoped the third film would be released in 2011 or 2012. Nolan wanted the story for the third installment to keep him emotionally invested. On a more superficial level, I have to ask the question, he reasoned. How many good third movies in a franchise can people name? Which is fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The third tends to be the weaker.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Three.
Nolan said that he never even thought of a third film was possible in the foreword of his book, The Art of Making the Dark Knight Trilogy. Nolan only agreed to a third film on the basis of finding a worthwhile story.
And specifically to make that book. He couldn't sell a book called The Dark Knight
Trilogy. There's a trilogy, yeah.
Okay.
Fearing that he would become bored halfway through production if he discovered the film to be unnecessary. By December 2008, Nolan completed his rough story outline before he committed himself to Inception. Later in December, Alan F. Horn confirmed that while discussions with Nolan about a third film were ongoing, no casting had been done, and Horn denied all such rumours. Before Nolan confirmed his involvement, Gary Oldman has said he was confident Nolan would return.
Because didn't Nolan film The Prestige between Batman films as well?
He filmed Prestige between Batman Begins and Dark Knight in 2006.
For directors who's working on to actually,
because he would have been writing The Dark Knight and he would have been writing The Dark Knight while he was writing Prestige and filming it.
He went off to make Inception as well.
Yeah, in between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. It's
kind of unusual.
And Prestige and Inception are brilliant movies. It just goes to show his talent, doesn't it? But
because the normal gap between sequels is like 3 years.
Yeah.
And we've had 3 years between Begins and Dark Knight, and 4 years.
Yeah. So maybe the extra year was just for Inception, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But on February 9th, 2010, it was announced that Nolan had cracked the story and was committed to return to the project. Shortly afterwards, it was announced David S. Goyer and Jonathan Nolan were working on a screenplay. Goyer would leave the project during pre-production to begin work on Man of Steel. Jonathan continued writing the script based on the story by his brother, Chris, and Goyer. Chris Nolan said that his brother's original draft was about 400 pages. The film's storyline has been compared with the Batman comic book series story arc Nightfall 1993, which showcased Bane, the miniseries The Dark Knight Returns 1986, in which Batman returns to Gotham after a 10-year absence, and the story arc No Man's Land 1999, which depicts a Gotham cut off from the rest of the world and overrun by gangs. And once again, you can see that influence throughout it. You know?
Yeah.
The nickname The Dark Knight was first applied to Batman in Batman #1 1940 in a story written by Bill Finger. Nolan confirmed the Joker would not return in the third film and dismissed rumours that he considered using unused footage of Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight. Reportedly before his death, Ledger had plans to reprise the role of the Joker in the third film after enjoying his time filming The Dark Knight, a notion supported by Two-Face actor Aaron Eckhart. The Dark Knight Rises reunited Nolan with many of his past collaborators, including cinematographer Wally Pfister, don't laugh, production designer Nathan Crowley, editor Lee Smith, costume designer Lindy Hemming, special effects supervisors Paul Franklin and Chris Corbold, and composer Hans Zimmer.
I don't think they could have recast the Joker, really.
No, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're going to get Jared Leto to do it, like they fucked it up in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's such an iconic character and he's such a fantastic performer. How can somebody come in and match that, really? No. You just, I don't think any. I think as an actor,
you could get like a world class actor coming in after.
As an actor, I would look at that and go, nah.
Yeah,
I really don't fancy it. You know.
Well, this is the thing,
and I hate it when they do that, when they recast.
And it just
it just kills the film.
Even I know it's not a fault, but even Rachel in Dark Knight, it kind of throws you off for a bit. It's not detriment to the story or whatever. You know, you can look past it, but it's in the back of your mind, isn't it? But yeah, you can never recast the Joker in this trilogy, at least, you know.
Yeah. And I hate it when they go and they use like unused, because then they have to change the storyline to fit like any unused footage they've got.
It's not very productive, is it? Really, either.
It isn't. So just I mean,
I'm glad the direction he took it, you know.
Yeah.
And out of respect as well for Heath, he didn't recast it.
I mean, maybe that's why for me, this is the weakest of the three films.
Yeah, I agree.
So maybe that is why it is a little bit weaker. I don't know. But like you said, I can't think of a third sequel that is...
Yeah.
Or I can't think of a third film in a trilogy that is as good as the others.
You look at the trilogy, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future.
Well, to me, this is similar to Star Wars, because I think the second is the best. And the third and the first are kind of on par. I would say the third is slightly weaker.
Yeah.
But
I'd agree.
Yeah.
It's just maybe one of those things.
Yeah.
Despite partnering up on the first two movies, James Newton Howard did not work on the score of the Nolan Batman film. The Dark Knight Rises, this was due to any falling out or hurt feelings, and Howard's explanation for his absence was delightfully drama-free. Hans did Inception with Chris, and it was clear to me that those two guys have a great relationship. So when The Dark Knight Rises came along, I just politely said, you know what, you guys do it. I've got other movies, what I'm doing, and I think I've offered everything. You guys are killing it. So I just bowed out, but it was very friendly. It's a nice little story, isn't it? It is. Hathaway auditioned, not knowing what role she was being considered for. Hathaway described the role as being the most physically demanding she had ever played, and confessed that while she thought of herself as being fit, she had to redouble her efforts in the gym to keep up with the demands of the role. Hathaway trained extensively in martial arts for the role, and looked to Hedy Lamarr, who was the initial inspiration for the comic book character, in developing her own performance. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight writer David S. Goyer had previously ruled out in 2008, including Catwoman, in a third film for having already appeared in Tim Burton's Batman Returns. Hardy intended to portray the character of Bane as more menacing than Robert Swenson's albeit forgettable version of the character in Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, and that in order to do so, his portrayal entailed creating a contradiction between his voice and body. Hardy gained £30 for the role, increasing his weight to £200. Hardy based Bane's voice on several influences, which include Bartley Gorman and the character's comic book heritage. Bane claims that his revolution's enemies are rich and corrupt, who he contends are oppressing the people.
Because Bane first appeared in Batman Forever.
Batman Robin it was.
Sorry, Batman and Robin, because he's essentially created using chemicals, isn't he? And he's essentially kind of a mute, just he's basically a massive.
Yeah, he's like Poison Ivy's bitch, basically.
Yeah.
She's like smash. He's like smash. Yeah, it's like there's no character to him whatsoever.
So he's this sort of thoughtless, brainless kind of thug.
Yeah, he's just like a juiced up meathead.
Yeah. And it's a very different Bane. That you see in this. Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises premiered in New York City on July 16th, 2012. The film was released in the United States and the United Kingdom on July 20th, 2012. The film received positive reviews, with praise being directed toward the performances, action sequences, screenplay, direction, musical score and emotional depth, with many critics deeming it a satisfactory conclusion to the trilogy. The consensus at Rotten Tomatoes calls it ambitious, thoughtful and potent. The film grossed over $1 billion worldwide, making it the second film in the Batman series to earn $1 billion. In addition to being Nolan's highest-grossing film, it became the seventh highest-grossing film of all time at the time of its release, as well as the third highest-grossing film of 2012. It was named one of the top 10 films of 2012 by the American Film Institute, and is considered one of the best films of the 2010s. But yeah, with this film, I agree that it is probably the weakest of the trilogy. Still a great film, but
because the storyline is Bane, who was one of the
League of
Shadows, but was excommunicated for being too
brash. Maybe was it?
I thought it was too bad.
Yeah.
I thought it was too evil for the.
It was too evil for them. Yeah.
So he travels to Gotham to finish Ra's al Ghul's work. What Ra's al Ghul couldn't do was destroy Gotham, and so he basically turns everybody against each other. And
there's this so he blocks off Gotham, doesn't he? And he basically takes charge of Gotham, and
he traps the police force on the ground, takes charge, and then he basically allows anybody to do anything they want.
So it's basically anarchy, isn't it?
So hoping that Gotham is going to tear itself apart.
And there's also there's this storyline of this nuclear reactor, which he turns into obviously a nuclear bomb, and he's going to set it off to destroy Gotham.
Because this is the way Catwoman comes into it. She steals Bruce Wayne's fingerprints, so they essentially ruin him financially. So he's penniless, and he gets I can't remember what Marion Cotillard, her character. Well, she's actually Talia al Ghul. She's the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, but it's the pseudonym that she's what was it that she's using. She basically is given control of Wayne Enterprises, and this device. Yeah. So that's essentially
it's all
plot.
A scheme, isn't it? Yeah. And it's just the plot is just to take over Gotham and destroy it.
Batman returns. He fights Bane. Bane defeats him.
'Cause he's like a hermit, isn't he?
Yeah.
Bane breaks his back.
He ends up in a prison
in like the Middle East,
somewhere, where apparently only one person ever broke out of, and it turns out to be
it was Talia.
Yeah, Ra's al Ghul's daughter. And there's this convoluted story about how Ra's al Ghul married this local princess. Her father wasn't happy, and she was imprisoned in this prison. And there's like a chimney that's the only way out, and if you can climb this chimney to get out, then you're free. And there's only one person who's ever.
It was her.
It was her. And it turns out Bane actually was in the prison with her, and he protected her from the other prisoners.
And then I believe Ra's al Ghul freed him from the prison because he come across him, but then obviously later down the line he's too bad for the League of Shadows, which you don't want to fuck with.
Well,
really,
watch it, then you know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's. I think it's not a bad film. No. But it's just when you compare it to the other two, I
think the first two knew what it was going for. It set its sights, where this one has got, like you said, it's very convoluted. It's got a lot of different.
And after, like you say, if he was intent on just doing two films, and then maybe a third one with the Joker, and when Heath Ledger died, they're thinking, shit, what can we do now?
Yeah.
We've got to invent another protagonist. Or antagonist, should I say. So it's almost like, well, who can we get? Let's get Bane.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But
like I said, hey, this it's still one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. Yeah. That's just said that, but it's the weakest of the trilogy. But I think what it does right is, first off, I know we tackled it a bit earlier, but Bane, Tom Hardy as Bane, he actually is able to give personality to Bane.
Yeah.
That wasn't there in Batman and Robin.
And there definitely is a disparity between his body and his voice.
Yeah, there is.
Which is kind of, I don't know, it is a little bit off-putting when you hear somebody talking like that.
I think the reason why I did it is because it's kind of like...
It's a bit disarming when you hear somebody...
And it's disorientating. Yeah. You're like, how is this... He's really jacked. There's like, how is this voice coming from him?
Yeah. Because then, obviously, in this one as well, obviously, Bruce Wayne escapes from the prison, comes back to Gotham. He actually falls out with Alfred.
Yeah.
Alfred actually leaves because he feels that he's too far into Batman now. He just can't.
He's going to get himself killed. Basically, you don't want to be there.
He can't get out, and he builds this dark, what I call a Dark Knight machine, which allows him to basically listen in on any mobile phone. Which obviously then he falls out with Lucius over that as well, doesn't he? But yeah, watch it. Let me explain it to you. Watch it, because I can't do it justice.
Okay,
you're not going to pay me $1 billion.
What does this film do great?
What did it do great? I think it's great as a third act where basically Batman is at the lowest point in his whole life. He's lost everything that he ever had. He's been defeated. It's that typical, in it.
Yeah, the third act,
where everything's gone wrong that could go wrong, and then he's kind of, obviously, The Dark Knight Rises takes its name from him getting out of the prison, but also maybe him
makes sense.
Well, maybe rediscovering himself.
Well, exactly. He's at the lowest point of his life when he's in prison.
Because the only way you can go is up, isn't it?
Because he sees in the prison, he has this whole fight when he's not trained for 8 years and what. He has this fight with Bane, and he basically gets his ass kicked and he gets his back broken. Gets sent to the prison, and Bane says that he doesn't want. The reason why he doesn't kill him is because he wants him to suffer. And there's a TV
monitor showing news.
What's happened?
He wants him to see his beloved city basically tear itself apart, knowing that he can't do anything about it, and that to him is pain.
And so after seeing that, he starts training. He gets his back. There's a doctor there. He puts his vertebrae back in. Starts training, and after a couple of missed
attempts,
he finally gets out.
Yeah.
And he goes back, and I'd agree that the Dark Knight Rises,
because there's a thing with that as well. Is the first 2 attempts at climbing, he's got a rope, which is a safety net. His last attempt, which he makes, he does it free, because it's almost like you've got to have no fear to be able to.
And the doctor explains that, doesn't he?
Yeah. You've got to. It's almost you've got to presume you're already dead before to be able to do it. It's
like the rope's holding you back, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I think as well, I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: he is Robin in this, even though he's John Blake.
Yeah.
I think he's really good, and I like that he doesn't chuck it. It's only revealed at the end that he is Robin.
Yeah.
I like the plot. I like the story of the movie. I think it's good. I think in some places it can stall a bit. It's a bit stop and start.
Slower, isn't it? Than some of the other ones.
It's not as well executed.
It's just not as slick as it is as the other two.
It does feel rushed, I must admit, but obviously the situation with Heath Ledger and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that once again the start of the film was amazing. I think it gets you right into the action. It's a very unique sort of almost like I can't even describe it. It's like they're recapturing Bane, but it's this plane takes out another plane in midair. It's just wild. Watch it. You know what I mean? It's amazing. It probably kicks you into the film. I like that they still explore their whole. They show a different side to Bruce Wayne that we haven't seen before. Bruce Wayne, no matter what, he will always fight for Gotham. He loves Gotham. He feels like he has to tend to them. But in this, he's like we said previously, he's a hermit and he doesn't really care. Maybe that's because obviously during the events after. It's like PTSD or whatnot. I think Selena Cole, Anne Hathaway. I know we both said that we didn't ever see her in that type of role. And
she should have been in sort of romantic comedy films, and so you wouldn't immediately think it's Catwoman, Anne Hathaway.
No,
but she makes it work,
and she obviously tried. She put in a lot of training for the film. And this is the thing, like, it's not a bad movie. It's just not well. It's just unfortunate that the Batman Begins, the Dark Knight came before it. It's not as well executed. The story's a bit hit and miss, but overall, I think it's at least it is an ending, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's an ending, a surefire ending. It has a little twist at the end, which won't give away. But I think it's a very competent movie, and I think I'm glad it happened because it very well not have happened. So I think once again, I think Tom Hardy's the standout character in this. He's brilliant as Bane. But
we also see the return of Cillian Murphy as well.
Oh, we do,
the Scarecrow.
He's like the judge. He gets about 1 minute of screen
time.
He
does. Yeah,
he's probably got a fat paycheck for it. But
why not?
But, very good film. And with this trilogy, I think you have to watch all the movies, don't you? You can't watch one and not the other. So
all right. Moving on to our final film,
I don't know if
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, 2016. So this is 4 years after, although not really direct sequel to the Dark Knight trilogy.
It's more like a soft reboot almost.
It's written by David S. Goyer. It's directed by Zack Snyder. It stars Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, Batman. Henry Cavill reprises his role from Man of Steel as Superman. Introduces Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Amy Adams returns as Lois Lane, and Jeremy Irons, the great Jeremy Irons
legend himself,
Alfred
Pennyworth. I've always with Alfred, you're always going to get like a legendary British actor in, aren't you? That's how it is, isn't it? You have to.
So it's been nearly 2 years since Superman's colossal battle with Zod devastated the city of Metropolis. The loss of life and collateral damage left many feeling angry and helpless, including crime-fighting billionaire Bruce Wayne. Convinced that Superman is now a threat to humanity, Batman embarks on a personal vendetta to end his reign on Earth, while the conniving Lex Luthor launches his own crusade against the Man of Steel. So yeah, this is basically Batman taking on Superman.
Yeah.
So, in June 2013, Warner Brothers announced that director Zack Snyder and screenwriter David S. Goyer again would return for a Man of Steel sequel, with the studio considering the release for the film in 2015. The following month, Snyder confirmed at San Diego Comic-Con International that the follow-up to Man of Steel would feature Superman and Batman meeting for the first time on film. Goyer and Snyder would co-write the story, with Goyer authoring the script, despite saying in 2006 that a Batman v Superman film is where you go when you admit to yourself that you've exhausted all possibilities, an admission that this franchise is on its last gasp, and Christopher Nolan involved in an advisory role as executive producer. According to Snyder, the film would take inspiration from the comic The Dark Knight Returns. In November 2013, Snyder clarified this film would not be based upon the aforementioned graphic novel. If you're going to do that, you would need a different Superman. We're bringing Batman into the universe that now this Superman lives in. Batman v Superman marks the first appearance of Wonder Woman in a live-action theatrical film, which Warner Brothers had been developing as far as back as 1996. In December 2013, Chris Terrio was hired to rewrite the script due to Goyer's commitments to other projects. Further commenting on the influences, Terrio revealed in an article published by the Wall Street Journal that the movie would draw inspiration from Nolan's Batman trilogy. Italian semiotician Umberto Eco's 1972 essay The Myth of Superman, and the W.H. Auden poem Musée de Beaux-Arts, which contrasts
the quotidian
details of normal people's lives with the epic struggles of mythological figures. That's what we all think about it. According to him, in superhero stories, Batman is Pluto, god of the underworld, and Superman is Apollo, god of the sky. That began to be really interesting to me, that their conflict is not just due to manipulation, but their very existence. The Joker and the Riddler were supposed to appear in the film, but Snyder ultimately decided to cut them from the final script. Yeah, because you don't really want Batman sort of villains in a crossover film, do you?
No.
Because that kind of then makes it all about Batman, doesn't it?
And with two big personalities, it just doesn't work.
I can understand what he's saying about sort of Superman being sort of the light and Batman being the dark.
Superman is the face of hope, isn't he?
They're kind of
very contrasting.
Dawn of Justice is Affleck's second film as a comic book superhero. He played Daredevil in 2003 film of the same name, and was initially reluctant to accept playing Batman, citing that he felt he didn't fit the traditional mould. But once Zack Snyder showed him the concept and that it would be both different from the great movies that Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale made, but still in keeping with tradition, he was excited. Affleck previously stated in 2006 that Daredevil had inoculated him from ever playing another superhero. Is that because it got panned?
Oh yeah, it's such a shit film. Yeah, it's early Marvel still trying to figure out what they're trying to do.
Because in 2002, I believe, this is all part of the Superman saga, that Kevin Smith had actually written a script for Affleck to play Superman.
Oh wow!
I think it was like what would become Superman Returns.
Okay, yeah.
But I think it was modelled on the death of Superman.
Yeah,
as well.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So he was obviously interested in. This is before he did Daredevil, obviously, which kind of shat all over that. Snyder cast an older Batman to be a layered juxtaposition against a younger Superman, which is interesting, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
While bearing the scars of a seasoned crime fighter, but retaining the charm that that the world sees in billionaire Bruce Wayne. He doesn't really appear a lot as Bruce Wayne.
No, he doesn't.
None of that playboy kind of that you see in some of the Dark Knight trilogy.
No.
So
and he's darker as well. He's brooding.
Nolan was involved with the casting of Affleck, and he was the first actor Snyder approached for the part. Director had also discussed the part with Josh Brolin. Bale admitted he wanted to play Batman again after The Dark Knight Rises, though he stated that his Batman does not belong in any other film. and he was never approached by Warner Brothers to play the role again. Yeah, I guess so.
I think it's the right decision.
So maybe. On casting Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, Snyder offered, having Jesse in the role allows us to explore that interesting dynamic and also take the character in some new and unexpected directions.
Yeah, we have a certain... Yeah. We have our thoughts on Jesse Eisenberg, don't we?
Bryan Cranston was considered for the role before Eisenberg was cast. Yeah. Why not get Spacey to reprise his role?
Ooh. Spacey, yeah.
Producer Charles... I could see Bryan Cranston in it.
Bryan Cranston's a world-class actor. I would love doing that.
But would he go with, like, the shaved head and everyone would just think that he was Heisenberg, you know?
Yeah.
To white.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, could they see past that?
Maybe Breaking Bad, Walton White, crossover.
Yeah. Producer Charles Roven revealed that this incarnation of Wonder Woman would use the character's origins from 2011's the new 52 reboot of the DC continuity, when the character would be a demigoddess and the daughter of Zeus. This deviates from the character's original origins, where she was a clay figure brought to life by the gods. Olga Kurylenko was considered for the role of Wonder Woman before Gadot was cast. Dawn of Justice is Ray Fisher's feature film debut and the first live-action film to feature Cyborg, whose role will become more significant in future DC comic films. It's also the live-action theatrical debut of Aquaman. Well, it's not exactly a theatrical debut, is it? Because it's like, 2 seconds of film?
Yeah, still a debut, though,
I guess so. The casting of Affleck, Gadot and Eisenberg was criticised. Affleck's casting caused significant backlash from comic book fans, with multiple online petitions demanding his removal from the role. Unlike previous Batman actors, he was not considered intimidating enough for the role by the protesters. I can see that, it's like...
Up to that point, his roles,
a lot of his stuff, his early stuff, had been sort of comedy, light, romantic stuff.
Yeah.
Whiny bitch.
I think he was still trying to shake off that.
Some of his later roles, I suppose by that time, 2016,
he was more into the serious shit, but still, like I said, he was still trying to...
controversial, I guess. Conversely, Pop Matters journalist J.C. Matchek III supported Affleck's casting as Batman, stating, "Way back when the news was new, I wrote a Pop Matters article defending the choice of Ben Affleck as Batman. I'll let that one speak for itself." Via social media, fans criticised Gadot's small frame in contrast to Wonder Woman's warrior-like build in the comics. Does that mean she hasn't got big enough tits?
I think so.
I mean, you compare it to Linda Carter.
Yeah, then no one beats her,
Responding to this, Gadot stated that she had been participating in various training regimes to achieve a body that stays close to the source material. Fans also criticised Eisenberg's casting, feeling that the then 30-year-old was too young for the role and not physically imposing enough. Upon the film's release, both Affleck and Gadot received considerable praise for their performances. I noticed there's no Eisenberg. Both Affleck and Gadot received considerable praise for their performances despite the overall negative reception of the film itself.
You put a lot on Affleck and Gadot just to highlight
it, Jesse Eisenberg is the same in every film. He's that kind of neurotic little nerdy, really.
Oh, don't worry, we'll get into the roast of him.
Okay. Hans Zimmer composed the film score, emphasising the challenge not to reuse the themes he established with the Batman character from Christopher Nolan's trilogy. Junkie XL, who provided additional music in Man of Steel, also returned for this film, helping to compose the theme for Batman. Now that's a pairing you'd put together.
Junkie XL and
Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL.
To be fair, he's a good composer. He did on Mad Max as well.
Originally, Zimmer enlisted Junkie XL to compose the Batman material, with Zimmer planning to focus solely on the Superman side of the score. But the final Batman theme was written by both composers as a collaboration. Zimmer noted that he had significant trouble in finding a new angle from which to tell the story, and after the release of the film, Zimmer announced that he was retired from superhero films, though he since retracted this after being offered a massive paycheck. That's allegedly, that obviously. The soundtrack album of the film was released on March the 18th, 2016 by Water Tower Music.
For those that didn't know, there you go. Water Tower Music.
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice premiered at the Auditorio Nacional in Mexico City on March the 19th, 2016.
Mexico City is a weird place to...
It is, yeah. And was released in the United States on March the 25th, so 6 days later, 2016, 2D and 3D, premium large formats and 70mm prints by Warner Brothers Pictures. Following a strong debut that set new box office records, the film experienced a historic drop in its second week and never recovered. Despite turning a profit, it was deemed a box office disappointment. And again, fucking Warner Brothers.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Oh, it only made 200 million. That's and received generally unfavourable reviews from critics for its tone and pacing, though some praised its visual style and acting performances, particularly from Affleck and Cavill. Well, I actually didn't mind this film.
Yeah.
I thought it's okay. The problem is, like, what we're saying before...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It was deemed a box office... It was unsuccessful.
No.
Warner Brothers. Guess how much it made?
500 million?
It nearly made $900 million. And they've deemed it...
Oh, no, it didn't make $1 billion, so it's...
That is just ridiculous, isn't it? Warner Brothers, they stoop to new lows every single day. You know how we feel about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I agree with you. I don't think it was that bad of a film.
Because obviously this was basically a film to set up the Justice League.
Because originally I think they were planning on doing a Man of Steel 2.
Yeah.
And then Warner, I think, wanted to add Batman in.
Yeah.
So they've done a Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
And then Warner they were like, okay, no, we'll set up Justice League, so we want to bring Gal Gadot in. So it was once again Warner ruining your properties.
So you've basically got to come up with a story where you can encompass all those characters, include Lex Luthor, because he's obviously Superman's nemesis. And then you've got to introduce these other new characters and find a way to introduce Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash as well. So it's you know... It
just doesn't have a sole focus, does it?
It doesn't, no.
And this is the thing with these DCU... I know that the DCU films aren't the best, but what do you expect? Is Warner, that they just... Yeah. I don't know what it is about their...
Because all they do is we'll bring in Wonder Woman, then we can... That's the start of her then story, her individual films. We'll show Aquaman because we're bringing out an Aquaman film next year. Yeah. We'll show Cyborg because we're going to spin that off into another film, and obviously the Flash, that's happening, isn't it? So, it's difficult. It's going to be difficult to try and have a cohesive storyline.
Yeah.
So, because they kind of have to manufacture this storyline where Batman or Bruce Wayne steals the contents of Lex Luthor's computers, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And finds these metahumans, aren't they?
Yeah.
Originally called Facebook humans, now called metahumans. Which include Aquaman, Cyborg, the Flash, and then obviously Wonder Woman as well.
Yeah.
And he finds Wonder Woman.
I believe she steals it for herself, doesn't she?
And essentially, Bruce Wayne, they find a piece of kryptonite, don't they?
Yeah.
Which he uses to fashion
like
a spear that he's planning on killing Superman with.
This thing, my main gripe with this film is, I think they went down the shortcut route of the actual story of why Bruce fights Superman. The only reason why he fights Superman is because he thinks he causes too much destruction. For me, that is a bit bullshit. I think Bruce would be better than that. He'd understand that, because he's not exactly the most caring when he'd understand that Clark is just trying to he saved the world from Zod, didn't he? And to do that, you have to make sacrifices. So I haven't always got that storyline, you know.
And Luthor uses the alien spaceship to create this kind of kryptonite. Kind of I don't know what do you call it? Mutant sort of.
What he does is he takes Zod's body, because he gains access to it, and he uses the kryptonite, and it's like the pool, isn't it? In Spaceman's ship,
some kind of mutant,
and it creates Doomsday.
That's right, Doomsday.
Yeah.
And then, because obviously when Superman fights him, he becomes weakened.
Yeah,
doesn't he?
Oh yeah, because he uses this it's like a gas, isn't it? It's like a kryptonite gas. But then somewhere down the line, Superman and Batman team up against Doomsday.
Well, they're fighting, aren't they?
Yeah,
and it comes down to Martha, wasn't it?
Yeah,
which is Martha is Superman's adoptive mother, and it turns out that was the same name as Batman's mother as well, and suddenly they're best mates then.
Yeah, and it does seem that way, doesn't it?
And then they team up to fight Doomsday.
Yeah,
and obviously with Wonder Woman as well.
Yeah,
so it's just it's just a very contrived storyline.
I think David Goya's original screenplay for this film, I reckon, would be amazing. But when you have to accommodate Warner Brothers' needs, because that's what they do, there's no way this film's going to be executed any better, was it?
No,
because it's just I just don't get it. I just don't get it with them. All they care about is money. You know,
because like Batman v Superman, it's no contest, is it? We know Superman would so you have to weaken Batman somehow to allow him to be sort of fight Batman.
Yeah.
And then in the end of the film, Superman actually dies, doesn't he?
Yeah, he kills Doomsday, but he sacrifices himself in doing that. Because obviously Doomsday is made of kryptonite, isn't he? And he stabs him through the heart. So there's this. It kind of just ends with his funeral and it's over.
Because there was a storyline, I think, in one of the comic books called The Death of Superman, where Doomsday does kill Superman, and I think that was one of the sort of failed Superman films was going to follow that
storyline.
Storyline,
And another thing as well is I just can't look past Jesse Eisenberg. I've heard people say he's a world class. He's not. He's not a good actor. Like you said, Jesse Eisenberg is the same guy. He's the same guy in Zombieland as he is in fucking this film, Batman v Superman, as Lex Luthor. And just hearing that they approached Bryan Cranston depresses me, because he's a world class actor and he's the type of actor you need to portray a character like Lex Luthor.
I was thinking as well, I don't mind Ben Affleck in this film.
I don't.
I was never a huge fan of a young Ben Affleck, but I think as he's got older, he's matured more. And okay, I mean he's maybe phoning it in some of the scenes and things, but I think he does make
I think he's a great Batman.
A good Batman.
But I think we both agree that he is much more darker, much more dishevelled, because The Dark Knight Returns is a comic book. Obviously, it took inspiration from this film, and the film took inspiration from that. And he's much more dark, gritty. He's come back after 10 years. He's older. He's just sick of this shit, and you can tell, can't you? Even in his fighting, he breaks people's arms and whatnot. And I must admit, another thing that really bugs me is I don't mind the dream sequences, because I think that's quite an interesting arc. Why does he keep on having these dreams? But there's a dream where he shoots parademons, and even though it's a dream, just seeing Batman hold a gun, it's just not right. It's always pissed me off. But I think the main thing in this film is it explores some good ideas. It sometimes executes some good ideas. The fight between Batman and Superman is awesome. It's always going to be between us two personalities, but it falls flat and falls short of a lot of ideas it's set up. And I think the first half, obviously, it has to set up everything. It's a bit rushed. And the main thing is I just don't agree with. I don't think Batman would fight Superman over him destroying half of Metropolis.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weak. In the story, a bit weak over that.
But to be fair, overall, I enjoyed this movie. It's going to be one I'm going to look back. I'm going to go to. It's going to be one that I'm not expecting. The Dark Knight trilogy levels of storytelling, but it's just a good action movie, isn't it? It's a
movie just to kickstart the DC universe and Justice League, really.
And it's cool just to see Batman and Superman fight.
Yeah.
And this, like we said, Ben Affleck puts in a good performance as Batman. And I think Henry Cavill always puts in a great performance as Superman, doesn't he? You can. It's unfortunate because you can't. It's not until Justice League that you fully see his power, but obviously he's still only just learnt his power at this point, isn't he? So they do kind of have to nerf him at some points. But I think overall this is an enjoyable movie, isn't it? And much welcome one, really. Anything with Batman and Superman in is going to be good. So
cool. Anything else to add?
I know he had trouble trying to distance himself from it or try and take inspiration. But I think the actual original theme to this is amazing.
Yeah,
it's a brilliant theme. So yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer again.
Yeah, showing why he's one of the goats.
Yeah.
Right,
Cool. Right. That's all for today, I think. Next week we're going to be covering. This is going to be part 3 of this epic. Seems to be getting more epic.
It's going to be part 4 after.
Yeah, we're going to cover some of the failed attempts to reboot Batman films, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Justice League.
Yeah.
Although it's not really what we consider a Batman film, but.
We do have some opinions on it, don't we?
It's worth mentioning.
And I think we'll also do our final rankings of the movies and the Batmans as well.
So, if you've got any comments to make, you can get us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a website, thefilmgeezers.com. Our handle is at thefilmgeezers on everything.
On all the socials.
Socials. You can download our you listen to our podcast, but so you know how to get it. But we are on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, Good Pods, Podbean, and everywhere that you probably want to get your podcast from. So I'd just like to thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a long one, hasn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's been
longer than we expected. But, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.
Thank you very much.